I'm back from conference, which means I'm fired up on so many levels, and you are going to get it. That may or may not be a good thing, but as I often say, and you'll excuse me, my button keeps coming undone on my shirt. I think it shrunk in the wash yesterday. Excuse me. As I often say, this is my truth. And I really need to preface this sermon with this is the words that God has laid on my heart. If they do not sit well with you, I encourage you to explore why. And then if you feel I'm wrong, that's okay. We can chat. Because the theme of the sermon and the service is freedom, the right to be wrong, not the right to do wrong. Amen. So if I have got something wrong, then I have been wrong, not done something wrong. So I want to reiterate that before people throw it at me at the end of the service. So this week was 4th of July, and this is our kind of service around 4th of July, Independence Day, the day that was celebrated as freedom from the USA from what? England. England. Yes. So isn't it right that I preach this sermon? But as a Brit, I've learned much about Independence Day over the 3.5 years I've been here, and in my conversations with people. And this week I've had many conversations with my clergy colleagues about this, and it's been an interesting journey this week. So, I don't know how many of you remember Joss Stone wrote a song called The Right to Be Wrong, and her lyrics were, I've got a right to be wrong. My mistakes will make me strong. I'm stepping out into the great unknown. I'm feeling wings, though I've never flown. I've got a mind of my own. I'm flesh and blood to the bone. I'm not made of stone. I've got a right to be wrong. And I'm pretty sure that most of us would really like it that when we get something wrong, the people that think that we've got something wrong, whether it's perceived or not, have some grace with us. Amen. Would that not be the case? Yes. There is nothing worse than a clergy candidate who's in her 20s who says, this is the way to do it, and I don't care if you think I'm wrong, you are wrong. Whoa. Yeah, that was me. I have grown a little since then. When we try things and they don't work, we try to move on. But we need to be grace-filled in how we take that journey together. We give grace and we learn as we journey. However, we do not have the right to do wrong against others, to commit unjust, dishonest, or immoral acts. Now, I don't need to tell you that there are laws of the land that we need to abide by. There are the Ten Commandments that we may need to abide by also. But I'm not talking about that kind of wrong. The wrong I'm talking about is the wrong of committing acts of injustice, either because we don't like a group of people, or we feed into systems that oppress anybody. So, here we are on Independence Day celebration. I know it was the 4th. A federal holiday, a whole day off to celebrate freedom, the independence. That was kind of after they signed it all and done their amendments. That's why it ended up on being July the 4th, 1776. Unanimous declaration of the 13 then current states of America. They say, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So what happened to the women? They weren't there. And what happened to the black men? Oh, they weren't equal by any stretch of the imagination. We did it wrong. What about the Native Americans at that time whose land was being stripped from them? The slavery, it wasn't freedom. On the flag, I had to learn what the colours of the flag meant. And the red of the flag, the blue, represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. How can it represent justice if there still isn't justice? If you listen to the first reading today from Hannah, she was saying that she was taught that she had freedom. She had the freedom to say what she likes. She can speak against the government. She can wear what she likes. But then she learned other people don't have that freedom yet. The freedom was just for some people. Even in the United States. The people that fit into the boxes who are acceptable. So if there is freedom in this land, why was it not, and why is it not, freedom for all? How many of you celebrated Juneteenth? Juneteenth is a celebration of African American liberation. The ending of slavery. Some African American communities will not celebrate the 4th because that never gave them independence. Juneteenth is what gave them independence. Independence Day gave you freedom from the British, except those of us that stay and come over after. It gave you the freedom to be wrong, not to do wrong. That independence and that freedom should have allowed all of us to be able to live in freedom. And yet, it still doesn't. I know that was then, and this is now. But it hasn't changed. Oh, it may have changed for some of us, and we feel very free to speak out, to do what we need to do, to have that pursuit of happiness. But for many, there isn't that freedom. Jesus tells us many times that we get it wrong. But Jesus also says that's okay. But Jesus says we do not have the option to do wrong. And our psalm today speaks of another kind of freedom. The freedom to move around our land in the presence of our God, in relationship with God. Spurgeon would say that the psalmist was saying he was free from fear, from the most tyrannical of leaders at that time. Would that be the freedom that we would seek out? You see, we don't have to agree politically. We do not have to agree theologically. But there is a place that we have to agree that there needs to be freedom for all people, or else we are doing wrong. We are not living by God's freedom. If we were, we would fight for liberty and justice for all. We'll make mistakes. We'll use wrong language. But when we are fighting for justice, we're not intentionally doing wrong, even though sometimes we may get it wrong. The freedom 243 years ago should have meant freedom for all, and yet here we are, without that freedom for all. Jesus spoke of justice and freedom for all when he spoke of feeding the hungry, giving shelter to the homeless, giving those that are thirsty drinks, and giving the stranger love. And yet here we are, over 2,000 years later, still without justice. because we make the mistake of feeding into systems that oppress. The Statue of Liberty, given to mark the centennial of the independence of freedom, and the words say, I know you know them, but the words say, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. And yet, 143 years later, still not justice for all. What are we doing wrong? Matthew 11 says, come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart, and you will find rest for yourselves. For my yoke is easy and my burden light. We need to do that for everybody whose burden is not able to pursue happiness, whose burden is not justice and freedom. Because there are systems that won't let that happen. They don't bring freedom and justice. So is all hope lost? I believe not. But maybe the symbol of freedom that lies above our heads when there is rain and sun, a rainbow, a reminder of God's true love for us all, is more of a sign of independence and freedom and justice. When we have symbols and signs that only speak of justice for some, then we use that as permission to do wrong. When we seek out God's grace and mercy and follow the way shown to us by the simplest of people, a carpenter who met people in the margins, who didn't feed into systems that oppress, but challenged every single system that oppressed people. That is true freedom. I'm not saying the Declaration of Independence celebration on the 4th of July is wrong. In its truest form, it's ideal. In its truest form, it's embracing of all people. However, somehow, we lost sight of it. And just as Hannah taught us in that poem, the freedom for all people is what is needed, not just some. And when we celebrate something that oppresses even one person, we have so much left to do. So much thinking and examination of ourselves. So, as we travel through this week, I pray that we'll think about how we can inadvertently do wrong, how we can disempower, how we disenfranchise and disassociate, because sometimes our eyes are on the very thing that Jesus spoke against many years ago. He stripped structures and built relationships. He stripped oppression and brought compassion. He stripped and challenged hatred and brought humility. He broke down walls and built up love. The love that brings justice and compassion for all. Will you do the same?
I was too busy listening to that wonderful song. What a lesson this morning. To share our love and justice with all. And we do that through our tithes and offerings also, so that we can share what we have here with the world, through our video, through our pastor, through different things that we do here at this church. And in order to do that, we need your time. So dig deep and share your blessings with others as the ushers come forward and we sing Amazing Grace. Please rise.
Sing God's praise, and when